Thundercats are here!
Hey guys, hello gorgeous. Time for another Patreon special mission. This one comes from award-winning actor Steve Kassan, but he'll always be Chico Santana to me. Taking a look at the history of Thundercats. As with the recent History of Cops episode, I'll be looking at the good guys in this installment for the sake of time, and save the villain figures and vehicles for another day. The Thundercats toy line was produced starting in 1985 by LJN. Years later, I'd come to learn that LJN was one of the lesser quality toy manufacturers compared to Hasbro and Kenner. But at the time, I didn't care. Thundercats were on the move and Thundercats were loose in my house. I remember comparing these toys to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe because of their size, limited articulation, and play features. And the advantage I thought they had over the He-Man figures is the awesome accessories included. It seemed LJN really went the extra mile with not just including weapons, but including extra figures too, albeit non-posable soft plastic figures. I also loved how they weren't just remolds, or heavily shared parts like the He-Man figures did. Each Thundercat was not just a unique sculpt, but a unique size as well. Although money was tight, I somehow managed to snag all 4 of the original Thundercats figures released in 1985. The lineup included Cheetara.
Cheetara, ready? Ho!
Who included a staff and a Wily Kit figure. My favorite, Tigra.
Tigra, ready? Ho!
With his whip. And a non-posable Wily Cat, Panthro, the master of the nunchucks. And Lion-O, Lord of the Thundercats, who came with a bunch of great accessories. He came with a non-posable Snarf figure, also known as
Uncle Osbert!
Osbert!
the Sword of Omens. And a removable claw shield. But without a doubt, his coolest gimmick was his light-up eyes. He included this battery pack that doubled as a ring. A bit too small for adults, unless it's worn as a pinky ring. And when it's inserted in this space in the back, his eyes light up, just like when he summons Sight Beyond Sight from the Sword of Omens.
Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight!
All of the Thundercats' eyes would light up on the show whenever Lion-O would call them with the Sword of Omens. So it was awesome that at least one of the figures featured this light-up action. The leads on some of these can be pretty worn down, and a bit of finagling is required to make it work. But I actually like the pulsating look this creates. It gives them a magical aspect, radiating with power. Like Masters of the Universe, each figure also included a play-action feature. While almost all of the Masters had the standard waist spring action, the Thundercats featured a lever on their backs, which gave them a slashing or smashing action. In hindsight, I'm not sure how good an idea this was. I don't recall using it all that much with my Thundercats, and it hindered posability in whatever arm happened to have the spring feature in. Plus, it can break from overuse. So I think I would have rather just had the arms be posable and leave the smashing and bashing to the figure's operator. There was one vehicle released for the good guys in '85, the Thunder Tank.
Ready the Thunder Tank!
Thunder Tank, the ultimate attack machine.
This thing was massive. I mean, the Thundercats figures were bigger than He-Man figures, and a lot bigger than G.I. Joe's, so a tank, even one that's not quite in scale with the figures, is still going to be enormous. Unfortunately, it can't do anything cool action feature-wise like the figures.
Yes, it can. What?
Oh, you're right, Panthro. Like the figures, the Thunder Tank featured a lever or button on the back that activated this awesome play feature. When pushed down, this cat pounces.
Thunder Tank, instantly armed for battle. Laser guns, stun guns, mechanical jaws.
Revealing guns in the arms, some ferocious fangs, and a hidden compartment in the back. And pushing down on it creates a clawing and chomping action. Only the shorter figures can sit in the back seat and have the roof closed properly. It's a bit tricky to get Tigra in there, but Chitara and Panthro fit pretty easily. This is an awesome feature. I love the look of not just hidden weapons being revealed, but an entire figure as well.
The grapple guns, Panthro!
In addition to these toys, a kid-sized Sword of Omens with light-up feature was also released in the first year, and a big wheel tricycle. Series 2 was released in 1986 and saw some of the other inhabitants of Third Earth join the line, as well as a few upgrades of the existing non-posable figures. This wave included Hachiman, the samurai.
This is Hachiman, ultimate warrior, bound to the Bushido Code of Honor.
A personal favorite of mine being from the Great White North, the Snowman of Hook Mountain.
Friendship, honor, and alliance must be earned, youth.
And a Tuska warrior. There were a number of smaller-sized figures released too. If you love the Ewoks, then the Robear Burbles are right up your alley.
We are Burbles from the planet Robear.
There was the leader, Robear Bill.
Robear Bill. Call me Robear Bill.
His main squeeze, Robear Bell.
Oh, yes!
And Burble Bert. There were also 3 upgrades of the non-posable figures from the first wave.
Wily Kit and Cat. Ho!
Wily Kit and Wily Cat received larger posable figures with hoverboards.
Yeah! Now we can really move around!
And Snarf received an upgrade too, with more posability.
Lionel, like this. Watch me.
And increased size, thanks to all the candy fruit on Third Earth.
Wow! Candy fruit. Delicious. Snarf, snarf.
There were also a couple of tweaks made to existing figures. A version of Lion-O surface that had an orange claw shield, Sword of Omens, and hair instead of red. And there was also a complete retool of Tigra, commonly referred to as Old Tigra.
This is not any Tigra that I know.
It is Panthro.
Okay, not that old. But this one was more filled out and resembled his cartoon counterpart more than the first version had. 2 vehicles were released for the heroes in the second year, some aerial support for the cats with the Thunderclaw and the Hovercat. And then the King of the Jungle.
We will help you build your home.
With the help of the Burbles, the cats got one of the biggest playsets of the 80s, the Thundercats' lair. Just because it wasn't in scale doesn't mean it wasn't huge. Standing at 20 inches, the cat's lair included several play features. If the base should come under attack by the evil mutants, Panthro's got it covered.
I'll tend to that. Now!
The head could turn and shoot as well as receive light beams.
Fire!
There was a laser-activated counter that registered hits and sounded an alarm. A secret door to trap invaders into an underground cell because every 80s playset had a holding cell. The paws lifted to reveal ion beam cannons. And battle stations for 5 Thundercats figures. This thing wasn't just a base, it was a game. The third and final wave of the figures was released in 1987. There were 4 Thundercats figures which were similar in size and design to the first 4 released 2 years prior. Jaga finally got a figure, and he was joined by the 3 new Thundercats introduced in the movie Thundercats Ho!
Pumira, Bengali, and Linkso, the new Thundercats.
These figures didn't have their original accessories, but now look complete thanks to Repro parts.
Sounds like we'll have our hands full.
You sure will, Bengali, with the Hammer of Thundera that's much more modestly priced than the real thing. There's Pumira with a Repro sling that looks just as good as the original.
Sounds good to me.
And the wise Linkso with wisdom dispensing action.
Keeping the peace can be as difficult as winning it.
And Jaga with the Sword of Omens, cape, and removable helmet. There were a pair of small-sized Thundercats vehicles released too, the Thunderwings Flight Backpack and the Stilt Runner. Neither of these appeared on the show though. There were also laser saber packs released to be used with the laser features of the Cats lair.
New Thundercats lightning sabers make all Thundercats more exciting than ever before.
And another Lion-O was released with the Thunder Wings. This time no light-up eyes, and the action feature lever on the back has been removed. The line was cancelled after the third wave, but toys for a fourth wave were planned. I don't think we missed out on much when it comes to the figures though. Most of them were obscure villains. It is a shame we didn't get the 2 Thundercats vehicles planned for Wave 4 though, because these were colossal and looked like they would have been a lot of fun. There was the Feliner with all sorts of features like mechanized moving head, working jaws, electronic sounds, and it could hold 4 figures.
Without a hyperspace mega condenser, we're not going to make this feliner operational.
Unfortunately, LJN wasn't able to find a hyperspace mega condenser, so the toy was never put into production. Just as well, since it didn't sound like it would have been compatible with your Snarf figure.
Mega dingus or no mega dingus, you'll never get me up in that thing anyway. Snarf, snarf.
Also planned for '88 was the Thunderstrike, which reminds me a lot of the Cobra Mamba helicopter. 2 pods that were detachable from the main pod, making it 3 vehicles in one.
Split!
It would also feature lasers to interact with the saber packs and the Cat's lair. Like the Feliner, it was also supposed to feature electronic sounds. Since these 2 vehicles were featured so often on the show, I remember patiently waiting for them to hit the shelves. And waiting. Still waiting. If you couldn't afford the full-size figures, a micro scale of figures and playsets was also produced in 1986. The animated series was produced by Rankin Bass and ran from January '85 to September '88 for 130 episodes. Unlike many toy commercial cartoons, as they were known, Thundercats actually had a lot of continuity running from one episode to the next, providing character growth and a slowly unfolding story over the course of its run. The entire series was released on DVD, both with and without hologram covers. This set's quite nice. Each box contains 3 individual cases. DVDs aren't stacked, and they're single-sided. In 2011, Thundercats returned with a new TV series and toy line. The series was a complete reboot, and it didn't continue the established story. But a few classics figures based on the original series were released. The new show is actually quite good. It adheres closely to the Code of Thundera, with a heavy emphasis on morals, honor, and integrity. And that's the history of Thundercats, the Good Guys edition. Want to request your own review? Support the channel on Patreon and give the orders. Got a Thunderian memory you'd like to share? Scroll down and go to town. And to join the tribe, hit subscribe.
Farewell, champion of the snowmen!
Farewell, Lord of the Thundercats. Nerd must stay. Ho!